All right, so before we get into this, let's go ahead and start with some disclaimers. All right, so we're pointing out red flags for ideal chances of long-term marital happiness. We're not talking about just getting a ring. We're not talking about just having a relationship. We're not talking about, hey, you know, you're 55 and you've been divorced 3 times. No, there's some things that you're gonna have to accept when you have less than ideal circumstances.
Or just, you're hot, I'm hot, let's get it poppin'.
Right, and that's a different deal, right? That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about things for long-term relationships and happy, fulfilling marriages.
And we're, you know, not saying that there aren't unicorns out there who just kind of like magically just have it all together and just automatically just find each other, fall in love. It's fairy tales, man. Fairy tales are fairy tales because they are ideals, but they're not the way things normally happen.
Sure. And maybe one of these red flags is like your kink. And I'm not here to kink shame you. If you really dig on one of these things that could be dangerous for you, by all means, go ahead and ride that bull if you want. It's your life, your choices. Hey, I'm not here to judge you.
Again, what did we say last time
about
not peeing in people's cereal?
Yeah, we're not
here to
pee
in your cereal.
Yeah. If you dig it, hey man, go for it. Just letting you know that there might be some things that may be cooking underneath the surface.
Yeah, but but I'm this, and if it works for you, man, go on with your bad self.
Yeah, that's like exceptions to the rule, right? Just because you're an exception doesn't mean it disproves the rule.
But things work the way they work for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's what works, man.
Yeah, and so the way we're going to structure it is in 3 basic parts. The first, we're going to go ahead and talk about red flags that are for both genders, generally speaking. And then we'll talk about red flags in men. So if you're looking for a quality guy, these are things that you probably want to stay away from. And then we'll finish out with red flags in women, because that's a really contentious topic, because anytime you say anything that is not abjectly positive to a woman, they might go ahead and get upset about things. That's just life. They don't typically like resistance.
Equal rights.
Yeah, equal rights means equal lefts, I guess. I don't know. Let's see.
I mean, you know, if we're talking about like we might make people a little mad.
Oh yeah, we are equal opportunity offenders here. Like there's going to be some people that are going to get some ruffled jimmies about a lot of things. But let's go ahead and get into it. I think one of the biggest red flags in common is having a bad temper or being violent, right? So now on the guy's side, I think that violence is part of a man's character sometimes, and there are appropriate and inappropriate times to be violent, right? Like if somebody steps up on you and goes ahead and does something crazy, I'm going to take care of it.
I hope you knock his balls out.
Absolutely. And that's an appropriate use of violence.
Yeah.
But things like putting holes in drywall or just, you know, you hear something and immediately you want to go ahead and throw hands.
Well, even, you know, there's been this old thing where people say, like, especially to women, where they're like, look, man, look at how he even, like, treats the waiter. If he gets your order wrong, is he gonna, like, go full Karen/Kyle? Like, then it's like, on a first date in public to some rando that he doesn't care about? What's gonna happen when you forget to, you know, when you overcook a steak or something?
I see you've been reading ahead on the script. That's later on in the same area. All right, fair enough. Look at you. Look at you doing the thing.
We are integrating. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, integrating. We're putting it together. Yeah.
So look out for that.
Cool. So violence, if it's not appropriate, bad thing. We agree on this, yeah? Sweet. All right. I think that addictions to substances and just poor habits in general is a huge red flag.
Well, that's the same. It falls under the same character trait of, you know, lack of self-control.
Sure.
Like, and there's some things where it's like, oh, I'm obsessed with this, and but you know, when you are like draining your bank account to go to the casino or the club, the strip club, you know, and putting in, you know, sitting there putting dollar bills in G-strings when, you know, you're sitting there and your account is in the red, then no problem.
Yeah, there's lots of problems with that, right?
There's lots of problems with that in general, but like, you know, it was just the first thing that came to my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Obtrusive thoughts, be obtrusive.
Sure. And I mean, like, poor habits is a pretty broad spectrum of things, right? It could be financial habits. We'll talk about that a little bit later. It could be just poor hygiene, right? Like, that's an indicator of, like, poor disciplinary, habits and self-discipline, right? If you can't go ahead and take care of your basic needs, do you really want to be taking that liability on?
Yeah. But also real talk, that's a real red flag for some women who have been in some bad situations where those kind of smells from lack of hygiene are kind of, it brings up some unpleasant thoughts of, past people who didn't treat them well.
Sure. It could bring up a lot of trauma.
I have a real friend who has that issue.
Sure.
And I was just like, I never even thought about it. So take a shower, put your deodorant on. What's wrong with you?
Just some basic things, right? Like, hey, be a basic good human.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. And don't be that girl either.
Yeah.
Seriously. All right. So the third red flag is poor attitude. And the big example is the one that you brought up about, like, how does this person treat somebody that is not on their level, right? So whether it's wait staff, whether it is a clerk at a store, anything like that, right? Even if it's like a subordinate at work, how do they treat the people that they're not on the level with? And that tells you a lot about kind of how they treat life and how they see themselves.
Yeah, how they deal with life, because not everything is going to be hearts and rainbows. Not everything is going to go your way. And honestly, sometimes your spouse, your partner is going to be sort of the cause of that. Like, I don't know, being late or something. And are you going to like berate them to death? Then this is not the vibes that you want to be in a relationship with. Especially, I don't know, when you bring children into the picture. If they, little Johnny knocks a Stanley of water onto your important contracts or whatever you've got going on, and just ruins everything, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna yell loud enough for the neighbors to call CPS?
Right? Well, because this is kind of like the
children?
flag that you see ahead of time that warns you of things that could happen in the future.
Yeah.
Right? And not only how they treat wait staff or things of that nature, but how they treat their parents.
Oh.
Right? I think that's a really important thing is, like, do they treat them with respect? Do they dismiss things that they say out of turn? I mean, how is it that they communicate with their parents? And that'll let you know kind of where they stand on a lot of things as well.
And that's a spectrum too, because
Sure.
If you've got an in-law and everybody knows at least somebody or has one who's certifiable, if they bear that at least in small doses with patience, then that is a winner right there. That is like amazing. But also, if they just let that parent or whatever just steamroll them and they just go along, yes, mommy, that's also a problem.
Because then that's like mommy issues.
But also, just being like some kind of milquetoast, henpecked, ripe for the pickings.
Well, sure. I think
And
some
you don't
people
want that either.
Most people don't want that, but I tell you what, some people definitely want that.
Some women think they do, but they don't.
Well, I mean, they think they do, but they're not really in it for like anything other than a good picture and kids. And I don't think that's a good formula for a lasting happy marriage.
Well, no, and that's what we're talking about here.
Right.
We're talking about the long haul, and again, when you're staring across the breakfast table at them, are you going to know them and like them?
Sure.
And that's not a recipe for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next thing we got is going to be a little bit contentious, and it's going to be obesity, or basically not taking good care of yourself. For a guy, I know that your health and fitness is an outward reflection of your disciplines and habits over time. And in business, I look at people a little bit differently depending on how they care for themselves, because it is a representation of how they conduct themselves over life, right? But the thing is, like, when you're looking for a woman, the appearance is kind of one of the big things that reels you in, right? And if they are the way they are now, what's the likelihood that that's going to change? And I'm not talking about just like, hey, you got a couple of extra pounds because you've got 4 kids kind of thing. That's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is things like extended, not taking care of yourself for the long term. And one of the things that I think is really important to bring into this is whether or not you have those tastes, because everybody's looking for something a little bit different in life, right? Some people are into like really skinny people. Some people are into like the biggest of the big, right? I think for the most part, most guys are looking for somebody with maybe a little bit extra, but the curves and the proportions are really where it's at. Like for a girl, like I think most people, universally speaking, dudes want somebody with a waist to hip ratio of 0.7. So a slightly smaller set of or waist to their hips. Whereas with a guy, I think most women, when they're surveyed out in the wild, would like a dude with much broader shoulders than his waist. And normally that's a 1.6 to 1 ratio for guys.
Your pocket protector showing.
No, but I mean, like, they've done studies on this.
Yeah, I get it. I know.
Like, there are...
Yeah, symmetry and all of that. Yeah, I get it.
Facial symmetry is a big deal. How somebody presents themselves in terms of their curvature, or even how they dress themselves, will go ahead and be radically different depending on what their base body shape is.
If you're an Office fan, I'm going to bring up the Hillary Swank debate.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like, but is she hot? It's not, would you do her? It's, is she hot?
It's so funny. Kevin made such a faux pas there. It was a logical fallacy to the teeth. It was terrible.
Yeah?
But, you know, let's, again, the 300-pound elephant in the room here, like... Sure. I get it. But am I going to sit here and just go, I am the way I am, and you need to accept me for me, or you don't deserve me? Okay, no.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip. If you'd like to see more from this podcast, you can go ahead and click here, where the podcast episode is linked in its entirety. If you're new here, you might want to consider subscribing right here. Thanks so much. Make it a great day.